Welcome everyone to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host Sean Gann, and alongside my partner Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you have the chance, go check out our website justsayingfootball.com and follow us on Instagram at justsaying, no G, WJS for article, video updates, as well as on Spotify at Just Saying Football. We want to be in your ears. Yeah. We like to be there. It's a nice place. Get us there. It's week 14.
Just listen to my good friend Sean. Get us in your ears. Go to that Spotify. Hit that bell. Get that notification when we are posting these new audios. But yeah, you ready to get into it?
Oh yeah, we got some week 14, man. Few teams on a bye. Few teams. We got Atlanta Falcons, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, Indianapolis Colts, New Orleans Saints, and the Washington Commanders. Chicago Bears have officially been eliminated from playoff contention.
Yeah, so they're kind of very happy for the bye week this week. But man, there's another team that's also been eliminated from playoff contention, and they are starting off our first blowout game.
Oh yeah, our first and only blowout game. We have the Houston Texans making their way to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cowboys are favored in this one by minus 17. 44.5 point over under here, our largest spread of the weekend, I think, of all season. Yeah. Rightfully so. I'm locking in the Cowboys. We just saw them put up 30-plus points in the fourth quarter to win 54-19. The Texans just don't have the quarterback play. Yeah. Dameon Pierce, I want to say will have a good game, but Cowboys defense is solid.
we really like Dameon Pierce. We really like Brandon Cook. It's just not the matchup for them. And in a world where Vegas doesn't like giving out double-digit spreads, they have chosen the Cowboys minus 17 this week.
Rightfully so.
Which is unbelievable. I mean, you have to think they may kind of lean off. But last week they had 5 takeaways, they had 33 unanswered points at the end of the game. I mean, they scored so many points in the fourth quarter, it kind of seemed fake. It kind of seemed like maybe they could have flexed that Burrow-Mahomes game into the Sunday Night Football instead of making us watch the Cowboys blow out Matt Ryan. But yeah, I'm going to go Cowboys no matter what in this game. The 17 line, I don't know what to do. I would say go for it.
I think you could.
It's a scary one, though.
Maybe hedge your bet, though, with the safer.
I honestly, 17 is a lot.
That's a lot of points.
17 is a lot of points.
They've done it.
Cowboys, they scored 50 last week. They're going to try to, not try to do that this week. I think that, they can. But yeah, maybe go for that. I kind of like the under in this one. I think that Dallas just runs it down their throats.
Yeah, I agree. I like the under in this one. Let's keep this moving into our meh games. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars making their way to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Tennessee is favored in this one by minus 4. 41.5 point over under in this one. We were both like, Jacksonville. That's the place. Hit that. Take the -1. That's what I said.
Trevor Lawrence versus Detroit. That's the matchup I said.
It's Christian Kirk, and it was all Detroit all day. They just were not there, Jacksonville. Yeah. And they get to go up their dad in Derrick Henry. Right? Yeah. And that's not fun for them.
And, many people are questioning why, the Titans, why the Jaguars should be calling Derrick Henry their dad. But can you explain that to the people exactly how much he has shown this team that, he is unstoppable and why he's the king?
Okay. There's a reason why he's the king. Now, in 11 games, 11, not even a full season in the previous 16-game format or the current 17-game format, he has... 213 carries, 1,143 rushing yards, and 14 touchdowns. 14 touchdowns. And in those 11 games, 4 games of over 120 yards and 1 game over 200 rushing yards. That's 5 games total. Almost half of the games he's played against Jacksonville, he's accumulated over 120 rush yards. That is absolutely insane. He is the king of Jacksonville. He's the daddy of Jacksonville. Yeah. I'm locking in Tennessee on this one.
And, I'm going with Tennessee, especially with Trevor Lawrence getting a little bit injured last week. There are a lot of factors to go Tennessee, especially Henry, Brown. But, Trevor Lawrence, they said with the MRI on Monday that he is going to be able to kind of make his way through this. But he avoided a huge injury, which is huge for this Jacksonville team. It looked all like going up for them. I'm going Titans no matter what. I'm going to take the 4.
I like the 4
no matter what. I think that they can win this game by at least like 8, 9.
Yeah, 9 take the under 41.5. Also, a lot of running going to be involved in this game. All right, let's keep this moving along. We have a ton of good games in this week for Week 14 because there's a lot of playoff implications. But let's jump into this first one because we have an AFC East showdown when the New York Jets make their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Buffalo's favored in this one by -9. Yeah. Over under here of 43.5. Now the Bills are currently the top seed In the AFC conference, Jets are currently 7th, but also the Bills are currently first in their division right now, especially with that loss that the Dolphins suffered last week against the 49ers.
Yeah, and this race, we talk about how tight it is every week. It's really only separating about 2 games between the top 3 teams, and the Jets are kind of fighting for it. They beat the Bills in Week 9, which is why I'm kind of shocked that this is a 9-point spread. But I do see this going in Buffalo's favor. There's a lot of optimism for the Jets right now. But Buffalo at home, they haven't played great at home this year. But I think that since the Jets got them in MetLife, I feel like they'll go get them at Highmark.
I agree. I think you have to split the series with the Bills. I feel like it's to sweep the Bills if you're the Jets is going to be absolutely insane, especially if it's a Mike White-led team.
And if they do, we'll be talking big about the Jets next week.
Exactly. And, Mike White, I thought overall, look, he played against my team.
Yeah.
Their 2 biggest problems were in the red zone. They were 0 for 6 in the red zone, and they were 0 for 2 on their 4th downs, also close to the red zone, 1 in the red zone, which was a goal line stop. And that's where they struggled. And then, sadly, his 2 turnovers just came in the first drive and the moment where you needed the most, which was in the last drive. But I really do think that Garrett Wilson and him went off. Wilson had over 140 yards receiving, over 5 receptions. That's exactly what you want to see. They're just having a great year. Well, Garrett Wilson will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'll call that now.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be a great game. I don't think the Jets will win, but I don't think that the Bills are going to win by -9 either. I would definitely take the Jets on the spread on that one. I think that this will be a close one. At the end of the day, the Jets' secondary is one of the best in the league, and their pass rush is just as good, if not better.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be an under game, 43.5. Even though that's a low line, I see a lot of disruption for both quarterbacks on both sides. It's like Josh Allen's a better quarterback, but the Jets, I feel like, have a little bit better of a pass rush. The Bills, they have a little bit better of kind of they have like Matt Milano in their secondary. I mean, there's a lot of great things about these defenses. I trust the Bills' offense more, but maybe if Mike White has a game more like he had 2 weeks ago, they can kind of stay within that 9-point spread.
Yep. Also, Zach Wilson not suited up at all against the Vikings. He was in his street clothes on the sideline. Just something to monitor. Going to be curious to see how the Jets handle the offseason. But let's move this along in our good games, because we have an AFC North showdown. Not just one game, but 2 games simultaneously happening at 1 o'clock that we need to kind of talk about almost in tandem. One of them is the Cleveland Browns making their way to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Cincinnati's favored in that one by -6. 47.5 point over under that one. Now, at the same time, at 1 o'clock, there's the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh's favored in that one by -2.5. Over under there of 37. Now, the reason why we need to talk about this one in tandem, everyone that's listening and watching, is because the Bengals are 8-4 and the Ravens are 8-4. They're the 1 and 2. The Ravens have the tiebreaker in their division game, but they still have one more game to decide that and could potentially split it.
Yeah.
But the Steelers and the Browns are both sitting at 5-7. Now, there's a potential here where the outcome of the AFC North by the end of Week 14 is 2 6-7 teams and 2 8-5 teams.
Yeah.
With a ton of division games still left.
It's so many division games, and then you got 4 more games to play after this. Most of them playing each other at least.
So every single one of these teams, playoffs are on the mind.
And we were really high on the Bengals and what they've been doing. At home, Cleveland. They really survived last week against the Texans with their defense and their special teams. Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Great return.
Great return. And then you had Denzel Ward with a defensive touchdown. It was pretty great. And, I think I like the Bengals to start off in this one. I think when it comes down to it, we're kind of looking more at the Steelers and the Browns taking over the Ravens playoff spot if Tyler Huntley doesn't come to fruition this season. But the Bengals, I do think, will have a stronghold, especially if they can take this game at home against Cleveland. Many people are going to say, usually our philosophy with the Browns games are, they're going to run Nick Chubb a lot. But we didn't see that last week. They just really, their offense is going to look a little bit different. There are some adjustments going on. But Joe Burrow, second in passing yards right now, only behind Mahomes. This dude's airing it out. Jamar Chase was back last week. I'm very excited to see what they do. But I'm going to go with them even without Mixon. I trust them winning this game at least by 4. But I don't like the 6 spread on them. I think that Cleveland will keep it close just because their defense has been keeping them in games.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Bengals in this one. I think Mixon back is going to be great for them. Obviously, Jamar, just a huge effect on the field. he had a solid line. I don't remember the exact output. I didn't write it down, but I think it was on lines of like 8 for 95 and a touchdown.
And a touchdown. Yeah.
But it's just the presence that he brings on the field for defenses to pay attention to him.
The Chiefs too.
Yeah, well, they're playing. Yeah, he does. Oh my god, he loves.
Like he came back last week just to beat the Chiefs. Like
you could see everyone was paying attention to what it is that he was doing, and the Bengals just have so many weapons. It's going to allow us to open up. Now, look, the Browns I think play better with Watson, and that's great. Although I love Brissett, I think though that the Bengals right now they're kind of what we're seeing last year.
I think that the Browns are still in the transition with Watson. Like there's just not
gotta get the run. He hasn't played football in 700 plus days.
Yeah, and so like the thing is too, I think with the Bengals, I feel like they're more sure of themselves right now. Their defense is actually playing pretty good.
Also, this is where they were last year. They were in a very similar situation like this last year, and this is where they seem to like it. Now on the flip, in the Ravens-Steelers game, I'm loving the Steelers again.
Yeah,
this offense is kind of clicking a little bit. They're kind of having a little bit of fun. I actually am really, really enjoying it. I really. And watching this offense kind of have some fun. And their defense is even better. And with no Lamar Jackson in this one right now for the Ravens, they take a huge step back, honestly.
Yeah, no, the Ravens, we saw Tyler Huntley come in last year, and, he did all right. He had 64% completion. He only had 3 and 4 touchdown interception ratio. But he had 300 yards on the ground on 47 carries with 2 touchdowns. I mean, that is sustainable enough in that offense. J.K. Dobbins coming back, off the IR, expected to get at least some snaps this week, from what I hear. And, the thing I love what you're saying, I haven't been riding Pittsburgh this year, but I am going to ride them at home this week. If Tyler does have a good couple of weeks, they're really going to ride on the fact that they have that winning record, that cushion in the division. But this is what gets that ripple effect started, like what you said, Sean, where really the AFC North becomes a just up in the air battle, especially if something goes the opposite way for the Ravens.
Now, I want that, which is why I feel like the Steelers are going to do it. But I just don't know if the Browns have what they need to stop what the Bengals can do.
Yeah. And what do you think about the 2.5 though? Because I know I hate those. Because that means that they're expecting somebody to either make or miss a field goal at the end there. I do think that the Steelers have a chance to actually win this game because it is it's a 37
I would say more than 2.5. I think you got to win this one by at least a field goal.
I like that. So Steelers 2.5. I like that. They're the favorites. It's a 37 point over under, but I do think this is a low scoring game at the end of it. These are battles when the Steelers and Ravens.
It's like the Broncos game last week for the Ravens. It's going to be almost, I think, kind of similar to that. You know what I mean?
The Broncos love making that game unwatchable.
Exactly. All right, let's keep this moving along. The Carolina Panthers making their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seattle has a back-to-back favorable matchups, which is great for them because Kenneth Walker is injured. Ankle strain. Not broken, not injured, just a strain. But they did sign Wayne Gallman today. Just something to monitor moving forward. That being said, they're back in the playoffs with the tie that Washington and New York had last week. I like them in this one. I just don't think Carolina has the offense to necessarily keep at the pace that the offense of the Seahawks can do. And what we saw last week, Lockett getting over 100 yards and Metcalf getting over 100 yards, that was what we were waiting for kind of like all season when these dominating games from this wide receiver core.
Getting 8+ catch a game, 100 yards a game, each of them getting a touchdown. That is how they get it done, especially with Walker out. You're going to have to expect Tony Jones to kind of step in there. I mean, I just want to point out that Seattle this year alone, I mean, you've lost Chris Carson to injury. You have lost Penny on the IR. Travis Homer has been dealing with illness. And then you have DJ Dallas dealing with a knee injury. I mean, this is kind of a good opportunity for Tony Jones, but they're going to have to rely on Geno Smith this week. And, the Panthers, their defense, we still have hella respect for their defense.
We do. But it's because that offense, I just don't know.
Seattle at home. Though,
it's still solid. Yeah, they still got the 12 man. I like them in this one a lot. I think that the way that they're playing under Geno, 70+% completion every single week is great. You can rely on him knowing that he's going to move the ball. It might not be big plays. It might not be like Mahomes or it might not be like Josh Allen. But the reality is he's going to move the ball methodically down the field and not turn the ball over with high percentage passes. And there's nothing wrong with that for where the Seahawks are at. And as they kind of enter this transition phase from all of their Super Bowl champion winners and, a little bit, not really so much their front office, but, as they just sort of make this transition from the post-Russell Wilson era, which looks great for them, terrible for the Broncos.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm going to go with Seattle, no matter what on this, but it is it is unfortunate, with Carolina to see, that, they definitely have brighter days ahead in Carolina.
Yes, they do. Let's keep this moving along, too. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers favored in this one, -3.5, over-under here of 37. Now, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, first Mr. Irrelevant to ever throw a touchdown pass, or just a pass in the NFL. Did it last week in place of injured Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not out for this season. He's just out for 7-8 weeks with a foot injury. What are your thoughts going to this one? Tom Brady, the GOAT, with a comeback win, scoring 14 points in 7 minutes to beat the Saints.
It was unbelievable. I mean, you're just sitting there. We both wanted the Saints, and then all of a sudden, you just see Tom Brady driving up the field, make it a one-score game in 3 minutes. They go and get, the New Orleans can go and kill the clock. Mark Ingram doesn't get the third down. They only kill about 40 seconds in 3 plays. You give Tom Brady 2 minutes, and it's just, lights out. But this is only the second time that he's won besides the Falcons Super Bowl where he was trailing by 13. That just goes to show that how little he's, trailed by 2 possessions in his career in general, or how many, that he lets just go after that. But literally, I mean, he's still fighting. The Bucs are still fighting. I think that this is kind of a perfect matchup for them to win. It's San Francisco's favored, and I get that because their defense is the
legit.
Best defense in the league. I know Dallas is up there. Eagles are up there. I can't believe I said that in a row. But literally, they are up there. And Tom Brady, in the post-game interview last week, he mentioned he's like, hey, we got a big game. But, with Brock Purdy getting 7 days to prepare, Tom Brady getting 6, I am going to go with Tom Brady after the way that they played last week. I didn't see enough from Mike Evans and Godwin. They were really throwing to Cade Otton a lot, who's getting involved. But I want to see a big Mike Evans game here. I think that this is one of those things. They get down to the goal line, they give him the targets. Julio Jones is getting involved. I just think that it comes down to better quarterback play in this one, which sucks because this is going to be one of those that it's just another kind of road bump in San Francisco season, even though I'm very high on San Francisco this year.
Yeah, see, I'm going with San Francisco. I think that their defense is playing really well. There's no Tristan Wirfs for Tampa Bay. And it's going to allow them to just sort of get after Tom Brady, make him a little bit uncomfortable late in the games, on third downs, on fourth downs, on these crucial downs they're going to need to get that he normally gets. And I think one of the best parts about San Francisco is that you don't necessarily need to rely on your quarterback. Jimmy G has played well in the system, and although the stats show that with Jimmy G they're significantly better, I do think that Shanahan's offense allows for potential for any quarterback to go and succeed because of the playmakers, because of how he operates. There's so many different shifts and movements that it gets defenses off their toes. CMC will still be a huge factor in this one. In 5 games, 307 yards on 75 carries and 2 touchdowns, 33 catches, 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he has a passing touchdown to go along with that. He's really doing it all. And this is what Kyle...
15 touches in 5 games.
That's what he does. And Kyle Shanahan finds ways to get his best players the ball. So I think that they'll be able to do that. I think this defense is going to step up against Tom Brady. It is Tampa Brady at this point. But also because if they beat him, maybe it's a selling point to bring him there
over to San Fran.
In the off,
Sean is riding the Tom Brady to San Fran.
I want Brady and I think if you're San Francisco, though, maybe you want Aaron Rodgers. He's a little bit younger.
Yeah. A couple years
but yeah, we'll keep moving this along. So we have the Kansas City Chiefs making their way to Denver to take on the Broncos. Denver is not favored in this one. I'm so sorry. Kansas City's favored in this one. I'm -9 over under here of 43. You know who's undefeated against Denver in his career?
Is it Mr. Russell Wilson? Oh, wait, no, that's... No. He's their quarterback. You couldn't even know.
Oh, no, he's lost 9 games. It's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is 9-0 against the Broncos in his career. I'm definitely locking in the Chiefs on this one. But that being said, and I've said this every single week, Denver's defense will make you play down. It forces you to play your best possible football. They're a solid defense across the board. So I do think that this won't be necessarily a cakewalk. Mm-hmm. I would still take Kansas City in the spread, though. That being said, I do think that while it's a not necessarily a cakewalk, 16-10 win or 16-6 win by Kansas City, very realistic to me.
Giving Denver 6 points, I like that.
Right?
No, I mean,
well, look, you get a first drive field goal and a last drive field goal in garbage time, and then
you're set for life when you're playing in Denver.
And when you lose 16-6, you once again hit the 18-point threshold, which is had you scored 18 points, you would have won again, which currently Had they done that,
Again,
they'd be 10-2.
Still be 10-2. I mean, that is incredible. But Mahomes leading the NFL in almost every category right now. You know, he has 350 more. Than the next, than Joe Burrow right now, who I mentioned before was second. I like the spread, like you said, the Kansas City 9-point spread. Definitely something I would go for. There's not much to mention about Russell Wilson outside the fact that I had to pretend that he was the guy who was undefeated as a joke there. And then I'm like, well, how do you even throw him in nowadays? Because Kansas City's defense is actually playing decently well. They're keeping them in the games that they need to. We saw that with the Chargers game a couple of weeks ago. The Kansas City defense, I know Denver has one of the best defenses in the league, even though they have the worst offense, but the Kansas City D is going to make a big enough difference to me to disrupt Russell Wilson. I think there's going to be at least a defensive touchdown on their end, because the Kansas City offense, I don't know if they're going to be taking Denver too seriously to this point. I think Isaiah Pacheco is definitely going to go out and get 100 yards this week, even though they have even though they have a great run defense, I still am confident that this kid's going to get 20 carries a game, and they're going to have enough output to do that. They're going to keep the time of possession away from Denver.
Well, let's do whatever they want, I think, at one point.
Yeah, and I mean, man, Travis Kelce versus Greg Dulcich, what a tight end matchup.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. It's just, Travis Kelce just way too good at this game that we call football. But one of the things that's a little bit scary now about Russell Wilson, before we just move on to our next game, he has 7 total passing touchdowns. You know who else has 7 total passing touchdowns?
Who?
Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz has not played since week 6. So... let that sit in there.
Again, a good reminder, it's week 14.
Yeah, it's week 14. All right. Let's keep this moving along. So we have the Minnesota Vikings making their way to Detroit, take on the Lions here. Detroit's favored in this one.
Ooh.
By -2.5. Over under here at
Vegas
53.
Slapping, yeah.
Look, Detroit has been winning games. They put up 40 points last week against the Jags. I'm not surprised that they're favored in this one. They actually are playing great. And the Vikings defense, we give up a ton of yards. I mentioned it last week, and then we saw Garrett Wilson go off for 162 yards.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra went off for 114 yards last week against Jacksonville. So there's a possibility that between him and Williams, who they just activated, that they can put up a lot of yards and some points against the Vikings.
I know a lot of people have been asking too about Jameson Williams. He got to play last week, and he only played 11% of snaps. I think that for him, tearing his ACL back in the college football playoff, it was all about get him back into football shape, get him healthy, and then don't rush him back. He's got a long career ahead of him. So I liked what he did last week, just kind of getting that motion. I'm kind of hoping we get to see something. But what I loved last week is finally Sean's guy, DeAndre Swift, finally kind of getting back into the offense. But that Jamal, I feel like Jamal is, a better fantasy output. He's getting more of the touches.
Jamal's world, and we're living in it.
Yeah. And, I just love, I got to mention that video of him running out of the end of the game with a big bag of McDonald's. I'm like, this guy just loves,
he loves life and loves his fans, and I love it.
And I think he loves being there. This is going to be a great matchup, despite the records.
Absolutely.
Like Vegas is telling you, don't let these records fool you. These teams are familiar. These teams are good. And the Vikings are a team that, has won games that have been close. And they could have a different record right now if things went different. And the Lions could have a better record right now if things went different.
We are 9-0 in one score games. Last year I think we had 14 games and we were 6-8. So 2 very different seasons, not in terms of when we're winning.
I can name 9 games that you guys have blown by.
Exactly.
One possession the last 2 years.
All that being said, I'm going with the Vikings. There's playoff implications here. We win, we're in, we get the division, everything on the road, and that'd be great to do against a division opponent. So I think right now you're playing for what's at stake. So I do think the Vikings will do that. I think this is going to be a great game. I'll put the over on 53. And JJ, 3 receptions, 14 yards the first time they played. I expect a lot more from him in this game. And TJ Hawkinson was with the Lions. This will be the first time he gets to play his former team. He had 3 receptions, 18 yards, and 1 touchdown against the Viking. I expect him to also have a better game than that. Maybe not a touchdown.
Kevin O'Connell is going to get him a good
I think so. I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch. And the Vikings have Christian Darrisaw coming back on their offensive line.
So I am going to absolutely ride with the Vikings this week with Sean.
We love that.
I think that, like he said, they understand what's going on with the playoff implications here. Everybody's really rooting for Detroit, but Minnesota is not. They are hoping that the biggest issue for them in their division is going to be kind of eliminated out of their competition. So I'm going to go with them on the road. It's kind of a perfect heartbreak for the Detroit Lions fans who are very used to that. But the Vikings nonetheless have been the same way. I did just want to see who do you think gets more yards this week between Jefferson and Amon-Ra? Amon-Ra.
Our secondary is not great. I mean, I know Detroit Lions aren't much better, but I think with the weapons that the Vikings have between Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, the big game of T.J. Hockenson.
Yeah.
You saw
Hockenson 2 touchdowns this week?
I don't think he's going to get... He might get one, but I don't see him getting two. Honestly, I don't see him getting one just because in the red zone, we seem to like Thielen or KJ or Madison.
Yeah.
But I would like for him to get one against his former team. Just always a great storyline, and he only has one with the Vikings. So let's get him to two. But let's keep this moving along. So we have a great one. It's an NFC East showdown when the Philadelphia Eagles make their way to New York to take on the Giants. Philly is favored in this one by -7 with a 45.5 point over/under on this one. Just the disrespect to the Giants. What are your thoughts?
Man, I think the line should be a little closer. The Giants have played one possession games very well this year. We saw it, with Tennessee. We saw it with the Ravens. I think that last week, it's just a shame. Me and Sean are a big team. Make the overtime, the college overtime. We want to see that battle go all the way through. And then, obviously the Giants coming up.
No more ties.
I was telling Sean, I want that W. And Sean's like, wait. But now that you tied, you're still in the playoffs.
And that's what matters.
We need that, but this is one of the first two times that we're going to play the Eagles this season. We played them the last week of the season, too, which is coming up pretty hot. And, I got to say one thing. This is a tough matchup for Daniel Jones. He has had some matchups I like lately, and now we are out of that. A couple weeks ago, I was like, he plays Houston and Jacksonville and the Lions. Now he plays this Eagles team that is the second best defense in terms of yardage, the second best in sacks, and they have a +13 turnover differential. That's the best in the league right now. Barkley, fourth leading rusher, but he is my key this week. He's just got to somehow get past that number 2 defense, get a couple of touchdowns, because that's really the only way we've been getting stuff done this year.
I'm going with the Giants. I think this defense is actually going to cause the Eagles a little bit more trouble than people expect. And, we've seen a few times Daniel Jones does play pretty well against the Eagles. It's not necessarily pretty, tripping after a nice 80-yard run, but still playing at least well to keep them in the games. And we've seen at times that Hurts, in the very small sample size, takes a little bit of a step back against the Giants. And the Giants are different from last year. The Eagles went into MetLife. They played a really ugly game, but still got the win.
Yeah.
The Giants aren't the same team they were last year. You go in, you play ugly against the Giants, you're probably going to walk away with a loss. I think the Giants can make the Eagles play a little bit uglier, get a win at home.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping. I want to go with.
Does go through Saquon though,
but I'm gonna go. I want to go with the Giants in the sense that I think that Jalen Hurts has been having a lot of he hasn't really been having too many good pass rushes. It's allowing him to kind of get around and do whatever he needs.
The offensive line's been great.
What?
That offensive line has been great too.
I know, and the offensive line. And they're making a Christmas album. I want to put that out there as well. That's
pretty good.
Cool. And I heard it's fantastic.
I listened to some of it. Solid.
Good.
Solid.
Everybody says that Lane Johnson sounds like Elvis, so I gotta check that out. But as a Giants fan, I must say this Philly spread of 7 is kind of disrespectful. I was kind of hoping for a 4, but we don't always get what we want. And I think that this will be a high scoring game, despite that these defenses are good. They're going to have to find ways to beat each other. Brian Dable really taking it a week by week. Nick Sirianni as well. Really just creating 2 different game plans, but all based on their run systems and their rushing quarterbacks. Daniel Jones on the season, 11-4 touchdown interception ratio. I just want to put it out there that he has my respect. So I'm going to go with the Giants only because they're at home. I think that the disappointment against the Eagles comes in the last week of the season. Right now, we're coming off that NFC East tie. We're coming off the fact that You have the Eagles who have lost to Washington already this season as well. You have, and we talk about these division games all the time. I get blinded by it because it's the division I follow the most, but I do think the Giants could win this game at home. I hate that. Like, I'm looking at the Philly minus 7.
Absolutely can.
And if I'm wrong and they lose by 20, go hammer that as well.
Like you knew both. I would have gone -4 as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a little disrespectful of the Giants, but I don't work for Vegas. But let's move this into our last and only game of the week when we have the Miami Dolphins making their way to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Miami's here in this one -3.5, 52 over under on this one. This is also a Sunday night football matchup, which is fantastic. Dolphins coming off of a brutal loss against Brock Purdy and the 49ers.
Yeah, man, and we were right. I rode Miami last week. I was like, let's go for it.
You thought the Padawan was going to beat the master, and Kyle Shanahan said, Mike, sit down. Sit down.
And as much as I love Kyle Shanahan, I thought that Miami had the edge last week. Obviously, with Jimmy getting hurt, you even think they have more of an edge, and then all of a sudden, they just can't get it done. This is becoming kind of an interesting thing for the Chargers because the Dolphins' pass rush is getting better every week, but the Chargers are out their right tackle, their center, and their left tackle. And those are, kind of things that help guys like Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen be able to get their targets.
And Justin Herbert to pass the ball.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert, now he's starting to get his weapons back, and he's already losing his protection. So it's a scary thing to see. But these two offenses, man, these guys are always going to have a little bit of paralleled careers drafted back-to-back in the 2020 draft. So how do you feel about that? I
think there's always that conversation of should you have drafted so-and-so ahead of so-and-so, and I think right now both franchises are going to comfortably say we made the right choice at the moment. Clearly Herbert is their franchise quarterback, and it's very obvious that Mike McDaniel and Tua have a great connection. There's nothing wrong with how the Dolphins have played despite the loss to the 49ers. Every team gets humbled sometimes. You know what I mean? Every team's. And it happens. I'm going with the Dolphins in this one personally. I thought that last week they went up against the 49ers. They went up against Nick Bosa, and they just struggled. Armstead was out in that one. They're going against one of the best pass rushes, the best defense like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And you saw what happens when a great defense meets an offense. And they were also on the road. They're on the road again on this one, but I just don't think that the Chargers have the defense. They don't have the secondary. There's no Joey Bosa right now. There is still Khalil Mack, who's a game changer for sure, but I don't think it's going to be the constant pressure that Tua was feeling that was forcing these turnovers last week. And because of that, it's going to allow Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to get open. Yeah. Maybe even Mike Gesicki might get more than one target a game. That might be a nice change of pace for him.
He is somebody that needs to get traded so fast. And we say this like the last 2 years.
He just deserves to be a part of an offense.
He deserves to be a part of something. He's like a really good athlete. He's a great tight end. On the other side, with the Chargers, I think that Keenan Allen being back is huge, but going up against Xavier Howard this week is definitely something to take for account. Especially if you're doing like week by week, like fantasy lineups. A lot of people are like, is Keenan Allen like back now? He's getting like double-digit receptions, kind of targets at least, but not double-digit receptions. He's like dropping some balls. He's good, but Xavier Howard and the rest of this defense, especially like Javon Holland, I think that's a big advantage where I think everywhere I think the Chargers are good, the Dolphins are kind of better. Yeah. And the Dolphins are definitely not happy that the Bills are the top seed in the AFC. They kind of went really far down last week with that loss.
And a win here, and if the Jets are able to surprise, that's everything's going up for Miami. They still got one more game against them, which is going to be nice. I just don't know if the Chargers will have enough despite getting all of their guys back, like Keenan Allen, those kind of guys. Mm-hmm. There's a potential for Corey Lindsey to be in this one, which would be great for them, but I really do think that this is going to be the Mike McDaniels offense. Yeah. And we're really going to see Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle kind of have some fun against the secondary. Will be interesting to see how Derwin James handles it.
Yeah, so that is going to be good. That's going to be a great matchup watching. They're just trying, the Dolphins trying to go deep. And, the one thing I think that they're going to have to try to do this week as well is try to get like Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert more involved. The one thing that's bothering me about the Dolphins is that they're so good and they're primed to make the playoffs, but I don't know how balanced they are. Where when it comes to the time where you got to have like that sufficient run game, are you going to be able to win these games? I think that the Chargers do, so it's kind of weird, but I'm going to take the Miami 3.5, even though I do see the Chargers getting better every week. But when we had a Thursday show, Sean was talking about the AFC West implications for the Raiders. The Raiders, win, and you got the Chargers, in a bad spot if they lose. So this could be the start of that.
Yeah, Chargers need to get it together this late in the season right now if they want to make it to the playoffs. But that is all the time that we have. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Enjoy Week 14. Huge Sunday. Some great games, some big things for me and Sean's teams as well.
Make sure your lineups are set.
Heck yeah, make sure those lineups are set. Take those Thursday players out of the flex spots, like I always say. And we got Just Saying Football on YouTube and Spotify. Go over there. Get us on your TVs, computers. Get us in your ears. Get that subscription. Go on justsayingfootball.com. Get all your newest videos. And then Just Saying No GWJS on Instagram for all your video updates. Thank you guys for checking this out.
Enjoy.